Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Power Rankings panel. This is Carl, and as I've said before, I'll say always, I am joined by the smartest baseball people I know, Chris Klemmer, Chris Castellani, and half of the editor-in-chief, Hubs. Boys, welcome back.
Yes, happy to be here. Kind of a wild week of baseball. Doing the power rankings here, looking at the list, it was quite a bit of changing hands. Some teams really took a big dump this week.
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to reach the point, because we are now a month into the season, where these top teams are going to separate themselves from everybody else. But I feel like 1 through 9 all season, it's going to be tightly contested when we talk about some of the, we're starting to see a lot of repeats on these lists. So yeah, definitely interesting times.
Yeah, it feels like there are 9 teams deserving, and there's like no other. I didn't really have a problem like I had in the past of finding that 8 and 9. Mm-hmm. There's 9 teams, and then it's just kind of ordering them is the issue here. But to me, yeah, this should be fun until we talk about the Yankees at some point. But we're not going to start with that, hopefully.
No, we're not. We're going to stay positive, and I think it's fair to say this is the first part of the season where I'm starting to feel comfortable when I give an opinion. We're going to talk about some of these teams. I think you're starting to see identities emerge, and now you're kind of getting long enough into the season where these teams can hang on to the narratives that are emerging here. Some are going to let go. So
it's going to be hard for me to stay positive, Carl. Like we got out of work Friday. It's been raining here in New York nonstop. Supposed to go to the Mets game on Saturday. Barstool at the park, rained out. Supposed to go to the Mets game today, rained out. So it's been kind of a miserable weekend. So I'm not going to probably stay very positive.
All right. Well, I'll say it. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're subscribed to our feed. Thank you. Share the episode. If you're watching on YouTube, go subscribe to the feed, vice versa. If you are watching on YouTube, you'll notice Klemmer got a haircut, looks 10 years younger, significantly more handsome. I don't say this very often about haircuts,
right?
Especially with guys like Klemmer, but you moved up several points on whatever type of scale women use to evaluate a guy like you.
I'll take whatever I can get. So it means I went from a 2.5 to a 3. So that's good enough for me, though. I'll take it. That's a W.
Amen. So we're going to get to power rankings. Before we do, though, there's 2 big stories I want to talk about. Let's do the bigger one first, the one that kind of generates more passion. And before we do this, too, a qualifier. We're back on the podcast feed, as I alluded to. We're going to do breakdowns AL, NL this week. We're going to give that a test run. So we'll get deeper into more stories around the league. This is more for a formal power ranking serious panel process. But there are 2 stories we can't move past, and that's the White Sox leading off. And there's some strong opinions on this panel about the Chicago White Sox.
It's a disaster doesn't even really do it justice at this point. I mean, I was so confident in this core. This is the strangest part is I was so confident in this core a few years ago. And I tweeted it last night. If you're going to be bad, be fascinating. This White Sox team is fascinating. I mean, they are playing. Usually when we talk about these in these recordings, we talk about teams playing at a high level. This team is playing at such a low level right now that they're by no means are they the worst team in baseball, but them and the A's, there's a fascination I have with their badness. Now, keep in mind they play in the Tigers division and will probably finish with a better record than them. But right now, their hopes this season ended in April, which is the worst thing to hear as a baseball fan.
Yeah, this team stinks. I mean, they're horrible. And hand up, I was wrong. I thought they were going to win the Central.
I liked them too.
Yeah, I'm like, they have all this. You go through the roster, there's some talented guys there. But, I'm just going to pull up some of the numbers right now. I mean, Eloy Jimenez, he's batting 187, has an on-base at 265. Luis Robert didn't even run to first base yesterday. He's on base of 248. I mean, Sosa has an OPS plus of 1, which is almost impossible. And then I haven't even touched the pitching. They have the second worst pitch in the American League. No one is worse than the A's. But, you look at some of the names, though, and I can't believe they're playing this badly. And, it's not the manager, I don't think, because they got rid of La Russa. I don't know what is going on with this team. It's just maybe poorly constructed or what, but they are horrible. And, you can say, they're playing tough teams. They've played the Rays. But, I mean, you can't lose 10, 11 games in a row without being bad. And they're very bad. And like Chris said, I don't know how they get better. And does this mean the season's over already for them?
It should be. They're lifeless. They're not just bad. They're lifeless. Watching them in person was a sad experience the other day.
I'm at a point where I think and it sucks to hear this. I'm shocked I'm saying it. If this continues at the deadline, you blow this whole thing up and you do rebuild too. Like, I don't think right now, with this core being what it is, you can reach the places you want to reach. I think that we're getting to a point where Moncada and Jimenez and Robert, could potentially be dealt if this continues, because they're going nowhere.
I've never seen something that happened yesterday. They had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning.
Yeah.
And lost the game 12-3.
Yeah.
It's just we were talking in the chat, like Lance Lynn, what the hell? Like, to lose 12-3 like that was unbelievable. I to your point, Chris, of like blowing it up. I guess the only positive is that they don't pay anyone. So like these contracts are kind of all movable. You can like move Eloy, you can move Robert if you wanted to. So that's the only positive here. But man, it's bleak. They even when they have leads, it's almost like if you're a betting man, like why not just throw some money on the other team? Like if it's later in the game, because they're just going to blow the game. That's what happens.
Yeah, the problem with the White Sox too is all over the place. Someone alluded to that. You could point your finger at ownership. Then the guy who works under him is Kenny Williams. He's not the GM. The GM is Rick Hahn. He's made some terrible decisions. Drafted Nick Madrigal 4th overall, then packaged him with Cody Hoyer, who's under team control with the Cubs for the next 5 years. He's going to come back from injury, be a promising reliever, the exact type of guy the White Sox would want without having to spend $18 million or $16 million a year on him like they are on a number of guys in the back of the bullpen. You're getting such horrible production from guys you banked on. Yohan Moncada is going to get $24 million next year, $25 the year after that. Eloy Jimenez at one point was the top hitting prospect in baseball. So was Luis Robert. Andrew Vaughn was a top pick overall. They took him when they had Jose Abreu. Garrett Crochet was a first-round pick that they immediately put into the bullpen, which was almost like we're going to try and copy the Chris Sale method. They signed Yasmani Grandal in the 4th quarter of his contract to $72 million. The most expensive player they've ever had is Andrew Benintendi, 5 years, $75 million in left field. But if you ask fans, they'll complain that they never got a second baseman and Lurie Garcia had all these at-bats. Well, what about the guys who get the other 650 plate appearances throughout the year? Like they don't have a good right field. Oh, Gavin Sheets isn't a good right fielder. Gavin Sheets giving you the best fucking baseball that guy could play. I would imagine if he has another gear to get to, it's not going to put you over the top. The problem with the White Sox was when they hired Tony La Russa, and they just didn't have the personnel in that clubhouse to like bring everybody together. I think Tim Anderson is one of the most talented players in baseball, period, when he's on the field and healthy. But the White Sox have a fundamental problem of keeping their players healthy, regardless of what fucking position it is. So it's almost impossible to point a finger. The only person you can't point a finger at is the fans. Those people want good baseball, will show up for good baseball, will do anything for good baseball. White Sox Dave is not an outlier. He is the fucking average as far as passion is concerned with that team. And it's a goddamn shame that they finish in the fucking middle of the pack year after year after year. They spent $190 million this year. That's not a little bit of money. It's not like the fucking Pirates $56 million the last 3 seasons. So sad shit with the White Sox. Same record as the Royals.
Wow.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, they have, Lance Lynn, who I know he took a step back last season, top 5 in AL Cy Young voting the 3 years before that. This year has an ERA over 7. Kopech, an ERA over 7. Like, that's just not bad. That's just not like that's awful. That's like historically horrible if that keeps up, obviously, the entire season. But we're talking some really high, outrageous numbers. The team ERA is 5.88. That's like hard to wrap my head around.
And I get the impression too, Klemmer, the one concern they might have about blowing it up is I know these guys are talented. It wouldn't surprise me if they all went to other teams and started playing well. It just I think that you have to seriously question their player development because
Moncada and Robert were great in the World Baseball Classic.
Yep. And I think a number one sign of poor player development is these guys have statistically gotten worse since like their first or second years. There's no way that should happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that makes this, like you said, Chris, the thing that makes it so crazy is the talent involved. This isn't the Royals or the A's that are basically playing guys that probably should be in AAA. These are major league players, and some of them have pretty good resumes, and they are just completely falling on their face. This is an atrocious team. Like I said, I thought they were going to win the Central. I was very wrong. I feel bad for White Sox fans. They're treated badly by the ticket department. We saw some of that stuff last week, and the product in the field is horrendous. I don't know how you can't fire the manager. You just hired him. I don't know how you fix this.
It's bad. Tony Lewis, I got to be at home being like, guys, see,
Miss me yet?
It was not me. A guy's drunk on his ass, sitting on his couch, laughing his ass off right now. It's ugly.
Yeah, last thing I'd add, because you bring up the manager, surprised that they hired him from in division when the Royals were doing multiple manager searches while Pedro Grifol was on that bench.
Yeah,
like,
I mean
that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, why would they let someone, if he's that great, why would they let him go? You think you'd want a more, I understand you don't want a La Russa guy who's been around since before I was born, but you want to have someone who's at least, I don't know, maybe had some experience. I don't understand the hiring at all. None of this makes any sense to me. The entire team. If I was a White Sox fan, I'd be smashing my head against the wall.
Yeah.
I do just blame White Sox Dave for like tweeting for like 7 straight years, pray for the league. And it just like, at some point I was like, all right, these guys got, and then they made the playoffs that 1 year. And
2 years, right?
2 years. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. Him just tweeting that all the time got in my head. I was like, all right, these guys got to be good. And now I just held them to such a standard. And now it's just this. And this is what Chicago White Sox baseball is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sad. I want to spend a little bit more time later this week actually going through like, all right, so this happened. This is how they did it. This is how they fucked up. Because it is fascinating how bad they are. Some teams are that bad. They're trying to be that bad.
Right. Oakland or Kansas City. This is not the case.
Lifeless. That's the word. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to talk about before we get to the power rankings, I just say this quick. Not lifeless. The complete opposite of lifeless. Fucking fertile. Baseball in Mexico City. We got to do more of this exhibition. So ball's flying out. We set the total today, boosted it to 24.5. Yesterday was 27 runs. We're recording this on Sunday a little bit before 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mexico City, 7,300 feet in the air, 40% higher than Coors Field. It's not just that the ball goes further, it's that the pitchers are worse. Like the stuff doesn't drop, the breaking ball, you can't command you don't know where shit's going. A lot of guys are just literally, they'll say when you get to Coors Field, they're like, your aim point completely changes. Now imagine that 40% different. These guys are, Joe Musgrove was throwing cement mixers. Your boys' thoughts on going to Mexico City?
Should we put every baseball stadium on a mountain?
Hubs?
Would be electric.
Hubs?
Did these 2 games though just confirm we just can't have a team in Mexico?
Yes, I would say so.
Like we just can't. It's so much fun. Today's Alex Cobb being a sinker ball pitcher should be barred from pitching in these types of games. You can't be. No, we don't want ground balls. We want fly ball. The Juan Soto ball yesterday that got out, it was just a line. Should have been a one hopper on the warning track, cleared easy. It's electric. I loved it. 27 runs, 30 hits, multiple times. Each team went back to back. That's never happened before. Wow. Baseball history. I loved every part of it. Betting the over was very, very, very fun. Today, not so fun, but I love watching this.
It's electric. It's fun. It gives you very similar vibes to what you got out of the WBC this year or in the past. The one thing I will say, though, there's given how insane yesterday's game was, or I guess Saturday's game, I wonder if these games should count. Because they do matter. Like the Padres are a team that had World Series aspirations. Like it's a really cool event, but you're gonna have this 2-game outlier where you played at in a way that you will not play the rest of the season. Besides that, super cool. But I was kind of watching that game yesterday, being like, man, Joe Musgrove ain't no schlub, and I
don't think pitcher stats should count. Hitter stats, sure, why not? But pitcher stats should. You can have your ERA double or triple by pitching in this game.
Yeah,
they should work on a solution for the ball or humidor or something like that if they're going to do this again. Because that's the only reason I'd say that is because we were talking about the pitcher stats and these guys are getting paid. Like one bad start if you're making 25 starts,
right,
can impact. And now Joe Musgrove has an extension, so that isn't really the case. But the only argument then against though would be They're both playing each other. If you ask the pitchers, if you ask the players, they'd say they wouldn't give a fuck. They'll play anywhere. Right? I think a lot of guys would say that.
The fences should be further back than what they are.
Yeah. No.
Honestly, I don't like it. So I'll be the
Okay.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
It's not the first time I've heard it today. But like you said, maybe a preseason is for fun. Sure. This fucks up stats. If, like I said, these games, it makes it kind of like mini golf version of, playing at the Masters here. Like, I feel like it's kind of silly. You have all these runs. You have pop flies that would be, barely in the outfield that somehow end up in the left field stands. Like, I don't know. I understand what they're trying to do, but it's silly. By the way, real quick, much as we should on the White Sox being lifeless, they just scored 7 in the bottom of the ninth and won that game 12-9. The losing streak is over. The White Sox are now all the way up to 8-21.
Yeah, like we were debating when to start this because of that game. They won, good. That doesn't change anything of what we said.
Right. Yeah, I think outside of the fact that they did just win this game, hey, we've said there's talent here. Maybe this is what begins the turnaround, but they still played like crap.
Well, fuck me. I don't know, man. Score 7 to come back and beat the Rays. It's a good transition into our power rankings. This week we set the batting order by alphabetical order. It's going to start with Carl, then go to Castellani, then Chris Klemmer. We had a tie in the 2-hole. Hubs, you're hitting cleanup. I don't know if I would want to be batting 4th and 8th today.
I'm going to do it. I'll battle through the adversity.
Okay.
You're a true hero, Hubs.
Yeah, I can take it.
Before we get going, did anybody have anything they want to talk about before we get to the list? Any big problems coming up the list? Any conditions or qualifiers before we get to? So once we get in this conversation, I'm going to say,
It's not about the power rankings, but just a quick thing, and I blogged it today. MLB requiring teams to submit a formal request 24 hours in advance if you think there's going to be a standing ovation in a baseball game is so outside of the planet. We can't allow umpires. Like, the umpires aren't capable of having discretion and seeing the fans are cheering. Let's not start the timer for a few seconds here. We have to submit a request 24 hours in advance. That is insanity.
And I'll say what's insane is you want to give umpires discretion over this shit. Then all of a sudden someone's getting preferential treatment. Mike Trout, they didn't want to ring him up. Oh, well, he was out because he was getting an ovation. This is just MLB controlling the uncontrollable, which is the fucking, Angel Hernandez's of the world and the CB Buckners.
But what's currently happening?
I shouldn't have done.
What's currently happening right now, though, is that you just can't get a standing ovation. You can't predict a fan's excitement.
Right.
Yeah, what if the guy has 3 homers in the game, he's going up to bat his 4th, he gets an ovation? You would never have predicted that going into the game.
Also,
or hit the walk-off the night before. They have a day game the next day, not 24 hours in advance. Can't get a standing ovation?
Who's going to be the first team to use this fucking wrinkle to their advantage?
The Blue Jays did it.
Yeah.
I'm saying the Astros will have the form submitted for a guy that they know is going to pinch hit in the 9th of a tie game in July or something, and the story will come back that some guy in the scouting department. Or if you're an intern with the Rays and you're just you're fucking around, you had a couple beers the night before and you're just filling out the form. That'd be funny if you're just submitting the form nonstop, being we're going to get 11,000 this weekend. We could get a standing ovation.
That's what, so I wrote on the blog, what if you, what are the limits here? Could you technically just submit a request for every player on your team every day and just be if it happens, it happens? That also, I know the Twins already came here, but Joey Gallo obviously would not get a standing ovation. But if Yankee fans wanted to get a strike, they just give him a standing ovation, and he's just forced to stop, and they didn't submit the request, so you get a strike, Joey Gallo.
I guess there's ways around it. I guess to me it creates a bigger issue, which is Teoscar Hernandez got the standing ovation in Toronto. Are we starting to overdo it with who fans give standing ovations to when they return to their old team? Teoscar Hernandez is a good hitter. Is he good enough to get a standing ovation in his return to Toronto?
It is Canada. It is Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good player, good hitter, but I don't know, not a World Series hero. I think he was an all-star, but not MVP. I don't know. That's what got me thinking. It's when I saw who got the ovation, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, MLB, get it together. That was all I got to say.
Speaking of Major League Baseball, I want you guys to get it together. I want the panel to lock in right now. Klemmer, I'm fucking looking at you. I want you locked in. Oh, boy.
All right.
All right, if you're with us, thank you for being with us. Again, subscribe to our stuff, share the stuff. This segment's the most important thing we do every week. I'm fucking serious, too. This is the most important thing I do every week. All right, we're starting the batting order up. I'm going first. It's my turn to put the Rays first. I know they just blew a 7-run lead to the White Sox. Okay? But they came back a couple of games. They're just phenomenal. And the way these players come together, and saw them play in person the other day, and it's fun because you're like, who's Rayleigh? Who's Luke Rayleigh? Oh, okay. You do a little research on this guy you've never fucking heard of. Now, in the meantime, they got superstars up and down. Like seeing Wander Franco play in person is great. McClanahan pitch in person. Just a phenomenal team. And Lowe's got thunder. I don't see him slipping for a little bit here, guys. Shout out Pete Fairbanks, too. Yeah. Did he get to 30 appearances in a row now? 30 innings in a row, scoreless, 30 appearances. Some crazy streak Fairbanks has rolling.
He got pulled from the game the other day, too. Is he okay?
You know, classic me, bringing up fucking injured guys.
It might have been why the White Sox were able to come back today. He got pulled with 2 outs in the ninth, right?
I think so.
Yeah, comebacker might have got him in the ankle, if I remember correctly. The Rays have been incredible. Carl's absolutely right. They are the best team in baseball this year. We've been saying it since we started doing this panel. Nothing's changed. Obviously, I guess this is the worst loss of the season for them so far, but we still talking about a team that has 6 losses the entire year. That's incredible. Yeah. They've been absolutely dominant. This might, I think about the greatest starts that I've seen or that I can remember that I've heard people talk about, 84 Tigers, a little before my time. Yeah. You have like the 90 Reds, had that great start. This is right there with those teams as far as just an absolute dominant start with just beating the fuck out of everyone they play. And no one is safe unless you're the White Sox today and you come back from 7. But other than that, no one is safe.
They have 6 guys heading into today with over a 1 WAR. That's
that early into the season. That's incredible.
Very quick to acquire a 1 WAR, I feel like, especially 6 guys.
Yeah.
They're incredible. Over 100 run differential still, despite the loss today. What was the stat I had saved here? It's maybe more on the Yankees than it is the Rays, but entering today, the Rays team OPS and the Yankees team OPS is the largest difference of any 2 teams in the same division in baseball. And keep in mind, the Oakland A's are a baseball team. Yeah. And that's not – they're not the team. I guess no one's running away with the West or whatever. The Astros are slow. Whatever. I don't know who that's more damning for or excelling for, but that's a stat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say the one thing with the Rays, one quick thing. Great. They played 2 good teams realistically.
Yeah.
Both of those series.
Hubs, they got a team OPS 872.
They do. I know. But I'm like the Yankees were on world pace record.
It's Major League Baseball.
It is, but I just want to point that out. They played 2 good teams and lost both of those series.
Listen, if they had this record and they had marginally better statistics, I would take your argument.
No, they're clearly the number 1 team. I'm just pointing that out there just to preach some sort of.
Last thing before we get to number 2, I was going to say I wanted to mess with people and take another team that should go second, but I didn't because I take this shit very seriously. I said it off the top. Don't mess with me about the rankings, boys. Thank you.
I did want to talk about the Rays' schedule real quick. So they have the Pirates coming up. Obviously, that we'll talk about them, I'm sure, in a bit. But then you have Yankees, Orioles, Yankees, Mets, Brewers, Blue Jays, Dodgers, Cubs.
Wow.
Yeah, we will know by the end of May how unbelievably legit this is.
That is an insane run, Klemmer.
That's wild, right? So things are going to get awful tough for them. I do think they are good enough to hold that up. And if you go 500, you're still wildly above 500, for the season because they have such a great April. So as long as they can tread water, they'll be just fine.
The beauty of beating up on the bad teams allows you to go 500 against the really good teams, and then you have a very good record. Like, there is a lot of positives to just beating the absolute crap out of a bad baseball team.
Yeah. Okay, 10 of their 11 qualified hitters have an OPS plus over 123.
Absurd.
But it's like 123, 124, and then it just goes right up 140, 147, 158, 182, 198, 192, 187. So my point would be for these guys to slump right now,
Yeah.
they're going to play like they'd have to slump to play 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was Randy Rosarena was a guy who I didn't know, if we were going to get, that Randy back. Obviously, the World Baseball Classic Randy was absurd, but 2020 Randy, 2021 Randy, he's back.
Yeah.
He's back defensively too. I saw him steal a home run yesterday. Like jumped over the wall and got it. Like he's just awesome.
He is so good.
So is it me for number 2, Carl?
Attaboy.
Yeah. I think there is a pick that most people would go with at number 2 here, but I'm going to mix it up and I'll explain why. The Atlanta Braves are my number 2 team. And I knew that was going to bother people. Here's the thing. I have a strong guess about who number 3 will be. But at the end of the day, right now, if I'm lining those 2 teams up against each other, I'm having a hard time not believing that the Braves won't win that series. They've been consistent as hell. They did blow a 4-run lead when I was at HQ a few days ago. That was bizarre. But as a whole, it's such a deep team, such a talented team. They aren't quite America's darlings like the team that's probably going to be picked next, but they got a championship culture there.
I got nothing to add. I think it's a great point. I'm disappointed, but it makes sense. Your best point there is if they went head to head, I don't think anybody would be sensible to say the Braves over the Pirates.
Yeah, I guess there's not a lot of steam on the Braves at the very moment because they quite literally didn't play this weekend.
Yeah.
The rain defeated them. But other than that, you can't put them much lower when it all comes down. Their offense is absolutely terrifying. I have questions about their pitching down the road, but yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm not going to be up in arms about them at 2.
Yeah,
I had the number 2 as well, Chris.
Okay, cool.
I mean, the Braves are a better team than the Pirates. I mean, we can do the song and dance, and it's nice. The Pirates, what are we doing? Stop. But the Braves are a better team than the Pirates, and they're only 2 wins apart, separated. And
right.
To Hub's point, the Braves didn't really play this weekend. So, I mean, the Braves are the best team in the National League. I hate to say it. It makes me sad to say that, but I think it's a fact.
Okay, Braves 2. I know a lot of people in Atlanta like that. That's a rabid bunch on social media. Enjoy, folks. Number 3, Klemmer, you're up.
Yeah, so this is going to be even less popular a pick than Castellani's. My number 3 is the Blue Jays.
You fucking pieces of shit.
I know. But the Blue Jays, once again, are also a better team than the Pirates. I know everyone wants the Pirates. They're a nice story, and that's great. But the Blue Jays are a better team. The Blue Jays are playing lights out right now. That's not a team I would want to play right now. I think they're full of talented players, especially that lineup is really deep. I think the Blue Jays are really good. And with the fact that the Yankees are just a shell of themselves, we're looking like, the Kevin Moss Yankees right now. Blue Jays have a real chance to do some real damage in that division.
I don't mind it at all. I didn't think they would go that high, but yeah, they're playing at an exceptionally high level. The rotation finally seems to be coming around a little bit. Manoah's been better. Bassett really only had 1 bad inning today, and Gausman is so good. I mean, Gausman's just been fantastic. I don't know what happened in that start in Houston where he gave up 7, but other than that, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball the last 2 years. He's their number 1 right now. I do still worry about their middle relief. How do you get to Romano? But at the same time, it's an exceptionally talented team.
Let me tell you what. I saw Eric Swanson come in the other day. What was it? Yes, on Saturday in their extra innings game. My man, just whipping everybody. So that is maybe your answer to how you bridge the gap through him. He was exceptional in that extra inning with the man on second. They didn't come close. Blue Jays, the pitching I feel like the big difference this week. The starting pitching all kind of came together. They did lose today, but you won this. You swept the White Sox, won a series against the Mariners. Matt Chapman is having an exceptional contract year.
He is about to get paid, man. Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to dupe a team or not, but he saw Aaron Judge last year and goes, okay, this will be the year. So good for that. Well, I'm never gonna knock that lineup ever. I'll knock their pitching, and that's when the Blue Jays fans will attack me. That lineup is unbelievable, and Dalton Varsho isn't even hitting.
Right.
That's
what's scary to me. I would say the Padres and the Blue Jays, with every player in their lineup at full health, seeing the ball well, are the two most dangerous lineups.
Braves would be a close third.
Braves are up there, but I would say, especially in the American League, like as good as this team is, you almost feel like, man, just wait. There's got to be a month where Vladdy, Bichette, all these guys are just seeing it well, and if so, look out.
Yep.
I'm sure that some Pirates fans are pissed off at me for taking the Blue Jays. Look, the Pirates and Blue Jays are playing each other next weekend. So we'll see right there, a 3-game series, if I'm full of shit or if I'm right. But that should be an interesting series next weekend.
Well, here's my question, because I was thinking about this as well. At what point in the season, if the Pirates keep this up, do you believe in them? Like, what is it? The All-Star break? Is it your Memorial Day? What do you think?
I think there's
I
two
think you have
things
to
there.
say now.
Oh, I don't know about that. You think they're going to make the playoffs, Carl?
Yeah, by believe, I mean they're a playoff team.
Come on.
Well, I think you can't. I think it's hard to say that about a lot of teams, except for the Astros, and I don't even know if you could do that. I don't know if we can do that about the Blue Jays. Blue Jays still got to go out and play the Orioles and the Rays and the Yankees, and even the Red Sox are average at worst.
Yeah,
I disagree. I mean, I think a team's history tells us a lot. The track record of the players and the team, as well as how they're playing now. The Pirates are playing great right now. But, look, the Central is also a disaster. The Cardinals are a dumpster fire. They're playing like shit, too. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But I can't say that. I think the Brewers, in my mind, have a much better chance of making the playoffs than the Pirates do at this very moment.
Yeah, I would have to say
that.
What? No, I'll believe when they play the Brewers heads up and they take it to the Brewers. Then I'll be like, okay, here we go. Because right now, clearly, that's they're playing exceptional baseball as well. I will say, you talk about history. If you look at the Pirates team history, every about 15 or so years, they have a 2-year stretch where they just do this. Maybe not the pace they're on now, but they're about every 2 of 15 years, something clicks for some weird reason. They get the right vets somehow randomly on a team, and then they make a playoff run. It kind of it's almost like we're waiting on. It's like the San Andreas fault. When is that going to? Every so years that ruptures. Every 15 or so years, the Pirates make a playoff run.
I've been alive for 43 years. I'm very old, as you like to tell me every day, Hubs. Pirates have made the playoffs 5 times in my lifetime and never made it to a World Series. Their history is horrible. Recently. Pirates fans, I give you a lot of credit. You're rooting for a team that you guys deserve all the credit in the world. And I'm glad you're having this run. And I hope the Pirates do well as a fan. Yeah. I think it's great for baseball. But I have no confidence this team is going to be there in September. I hope I'm wrong. But the brain is overruling the heart here.
Yeah, I actually think they have a set checkpoint date. If O'Neal Cruz, when he comes back, this team is still in first place, okay, then I think we can start talking. Maybe this is a team that could –
Which is what, another 2 months?
Right. It's a ways away, but it's going to take me a while to buy in.
Dude, who cares about O'Neal Cruz? They're getting great production at shortstop from Rodolfo. And you know what? They went out and spent a lot of money this offseason relative to the Pirates. They were around 53, 54 million. They bumped the payroll up to 76. Hey, $8 million to a 43-year-old Rich Hill.
That's
Carlos Santana.
That's bullshit.
I know. Just let me tease this out first. Let me fucking tease this out. All right? I don't believe in this. I'm just talking through this argument, okay? Carlos Santana, 37 years old, gets $6.5 million. You bring Andrew McCutchen home. Those guys are playing way, way, way better than you could possibly imagine. But you also spent $5 million on fucking Hedges. What, Austin Hedges?
Yeah. That's
576 career OPS. Guy's terrible. Guy's trash. Okay? They had a horrible I'm making fun of their offseason splash. It's not a real offseason splash, but the fact for Pirates metrics, it's a huge offseason. Okay, now to put it in context, though, to put in this start in context. Okay, they lost 100 games last year.
Yeah,
they've lost 100 games the year before that, and I think a couple times within the years after that.
Yeah,
this is the fastest a team has ever gotten to 20 wins after losing 100 games the year before. The last team to do that was the St. Louis Perfectos in 1899, which is the one year in between the St. Louis Browns became the St. Louis Cardinals in 1900. The Cleveland Spiders bought the St. Louis Browns. St. Louis had a better population, so they took the players from the Cleveland Spiders, who had historically finished in the top 5 of the National League over the last 17 years, shipped those guys down to St. Louis. Whole new team. They won 20. That is what it took in the history of baseball for a historically shitty organization to turn around and win 20 games this fast. So do I believe in the Pirates? That's what I'm working with. I'm working with Derek Shelton, who I've talked very positively about Derek Shelton for years and had nothing to work on. So the fact they're starting hot, they look okay, they look good enough for me to do this, I'm going to fucking lean into it and get passionate for the city of Pittsburgh. Now, Bob Nutting should sell the team.
Right.
That's my problem with what you were saying, Carl. Is like, I think that's like excusing this malpractice of an organization. Like, the fact that the Pirates ownership hasn't spent and this team could be even better.
They just gave Brian Reynolds $100 million. They made him a Pirate for life.
Who gives a fuck? How much money are they pocketing every year? Every team should have a $200 million payroll. Get in the fucking sport. There's no business. And they'll do stuff like that, little Band-Aids to make it seem like they're spending money. It's bullshit. And it's wrong. And it's really doing a disservice to Pittsburgh fans. People should be more upset about how ownership in Oakland and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are doing this wrong. It's not good. It's bad for the sport. It's worse for the fans.
Yep. So in that way, are you hoping they aren't successful because it may lead to more teams kind of abiding by that principle?
I think people are going to do what they want to do anyway, so I kind of hope they are successful to fans. But you're right, Chris. Like, when teams like that are successful, it almost gives an excuse to the Reds or the A's to be like, see?
It's happened before, yeah.
Yep. All right, on number 4. So we just talked about him.
I thought we had the Pirates 4 there.
I'm going to go No, I'm just kidding. It's the Pittsburgh. They're the only team with 20 wins in the National League. Come on. They can't be lower than 4. You want to give them 2, 3. I probably had them more there. The Braves just didn't play this weekend, so that's kind of why I didn't have them as high. But, Jack Suwinski has an OPS over 1,000.
Yeah.
Kutch and Connor Joe have been great. They paid Brian Reynolds. That's some good morale. Drew Maggi, or is it Maggie? How do you pronounce his last name?
Magi. No, I don't know.
Maggi, I think.
Okay. Got his hit. Good for him. Great moment. Great story. Just a real, like, if you hate that, then I don't want you watching anything. If you can't appreciate that moment and how hard it was for him to get to here. Good for him. Got it. I was worried for a little bit, like he wasn't going to get it. And, he got out of the way. Good for him. They beat the Dodgers. They took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. They did lose to the Nats, or they're losing. But they took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers in what was their first, I feel like, real test here. Now, obviously, they played the Astros in the past, but I feel like with all the excitement, a home series against the Dodgers was like a nice little test for them, and they passed it. So, there's going to be more tests moving up here. Like you said, this week they're at Tampa and hosting the Jays. That is, if they come away with that, 4-2, that might be enough for me to be like, okay, there is something here. If they get the shit kicked out of them, then we might be seeing, the Pirate magic will be fading. But if they have a nice week here, you almost have to admit that they might have something going. So for me, they're locked in at 4.
It's fair.
Yeah, I think you have. It's just, I want to treat baseball like a sport where they go out and play, and I'm going to respect what they put on the field, and I'm not going to buy too much into this. Like, this is who they should be, and I'm going to respect the fact they're professional athletes, and all these guys are doing the best they absolutely can.
Yeah.
And if that makes that a little bit cheesy and a little bit more of a meatball, but I want to believe that this is a sport and it's still a game where if you come together and you play hard and you fucking give 100%, it does it makes enough of a difference. Klemmer, you're probably right though. They probably are going to win 74 games, and
every few years though, the baseball gods are just kind to a team. 2 years, the fucking Giants won 107 games 2 years ago. You have the 08 Rays, you have the 06 Tigers, where maybe not on paper the most talented groups, but the entire season the luck is on their side. Maybe that's going to be the case with the Pirates.
The great thing about baseball, though, is that the season is so long that usually the truth does rise to the top.
Very true.
Not always, you're right, Chris. There are always those things. And
every few years, there's
teams. I remember as a kid, the '91 Braves. you're looking back, it's like, oh, it makes sense the team was so good. But in the moment, you were like, holy shit, the Braves are in first place. This is wild. So maybe this is the Pirates' time to switch in different gear. I don't believe it yet.
I would say it would be the most surprising, great team maybe since the 06 Tigers. I mean, you could throw the 08 Rays in there, but they did have like a loaded system for a minute. I mean, I would say, yeah, probably we're going back a ways. That Giants team 2 years ago was pretty random. But
is there any scenario here where the Pirates front office goes out and buys at the deadline? Or do you think, like, no matter what, they just roll with this team?
I think they'll buy, like, cheaper players. Like,
that's what I'm thinking.
Like, have, like, $3 to $5 million contracts. And they'll be like, see what we did?
Yeah.
Maybe
the Braves won a World Series doing shit like that, pal.
Yeah, Rosario. Maybe they're the team that goes and infiltrates the White Sox.
That's what I was just thinking that.
Imagine that. They just go, bargain hunting with the White Sox, so all these, like, cheaper contracts that, like, aren't, superstars or whatever, and tries to strike gold. Could happen.
Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal. Those guys are all going to be available for sale. Elvis Andrus was a great pickup for the White Sox last year. He's going to be the team that rolls the dice on him this year. You know what? And honestly, again, I said this. I was a little bit of a pussy. I'll double down on it again. Like, I'm glad that baseball is still a sport where the Pirates are. It's May 1st as this gets released, and the Pirates are in the conversation.
No doubt.
But to Klemmer's point, it stinks that they spend $76 million and they will not join the rest of the league in elevating the game. We're on to 5. I'm up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't love their starting pitching, but guys, this lineup is so utterly dynamic and they just get better every time they play. It's the Baltimore Orioles. There's a couple of reasons I like them so much. So the lineup's so balanced. They do a lot of things well. They hit for power. They got guys that are clutch. They got speed. They got a guy named Adley Rutschman who's so ahead of schedule on my schedule. Yep. I was willing to be like, all right, whatever, this guy will be okay. Adley Rutschman's so good. And the bullpen's quality. They've got 4 relievers that have at least like over half a win above replacement. And we're not talking about like dominant closers in plenty of save situations. So some flexibility there. Tyler Wells has been impressive. Kyle Gibson's been, has been solid. If Grayson Gascan can be exactly who he can be, they'll get better, but they've just been so impressive. Brandon Hyde does a great job with the Baltimore Orioles, and they're just a really fun young team to watch. I think 8 of their 9 starters are under the age of 28. The oldest guy in their lineup's Adam Frazier, who's just Mississippi State grinder. So young team that if they stay healthy, like that's the kind of team that gets better over the course of the year with the vibes they play at. Only downside is that division's just a fucking gauntlet.
Right. Because when I've watched them play, I've been super impressed. Now they've played my Tigers set up for you to be impressive, but at the same time, like there is the word you use is dynamic in that lineup. I think that's a perfect way to describe it because it never feels like you're facing 2 guys that are alike. It seems like all these guys have different approaches. All these guys are consistent. There's speed, there's power, there's guys who can hit for average. They've done a really great job of assembling a core. I think for the rest of the year, we're all going to have question marks about their pitching, but right now, up to this point, the pitching's been fine. I mean, Gibson's been solid, and like a few of their other starters, Wells has given them some solid innings. So,
Wells.
What's that?
I like Wells a lot. I like
Wells. Yeah. Grayson Rodriguez, I believe his last 2 starts has not allowed a run. So this is a team that's trending upward. Mike Elias has done a wonderful job. He inherited as bad a situation as you can inherit, and now they're on the up and up. At this point, I think that they'll be disappointed if they don't find themselves in the playoffs this year.
I got a name to throw out. Yenier Cano has been
filthy.
I mean, you actually can't pitch better than this. He hasn't allowed anyone to reach. He's unbelievable. They got him for Lopez last year, and he's just awesome. Just the type of guy they need in the pen. The pitching has held up. The offense is just something you don't want to face. It's an offense that we were talking. Chris, you mentioned full strength offenses. The Orioles are getting up there in that conversation of teams you just a gauntlet of an offense like that just is going to keep coming, relentless. If they're trailing by a few runs, you don't really panic. Like they're just going to get it back. So they're scary. They're a scary team.
Their lineup is fantastic. Their end game bullpen is even better. I think they have 4 guys with ERA under 2. The problem, though, as we all mentioned, though, and it's a real problem, is that starting rotation is shit. Like, it's bad. Like, I think the Orioles have a team ERA of 10th in the American League. And when you think about how good that late game bullpen is, that's almost like hard to believe. But because that rotation has a lot of problems, also there's no depth. So once guys start getting hurt, which is going to happen, I don't know how they can. I don't know. I mean, if they make the playoffs too, like who you start, I don't know. That rotation really leaves me concerned. Now, if they go out there and get a really good starting pitcher, like I remember, like the Royals got Cueto in 2015, something like that, where you have a guy that can come in and kind of slot into your race, that would kind of change my long-term feelings for them. But so far, they've been great. I have them 6th. The Orioles have been fantastic this year.
Yeah, so last year they sell, obviously, the deadline.
Yeah.
And like they shouldn't have done that, but that's the Orioles. That's just what they all
worked.
You can't do that this year, obviously.
No.
This year you buy. Like, do you see them buying? Because it wouldn't to any person you explain the situation to with a brain. Obviously, you buy. Like
here's why I wouldn't. Here's why, or I'm saying I would. If I would, I'm the Orioles. I'm buying 100%.
Yes.
But here's why he can say we weren't going to buy. They were supposed to get a shortstop, or someone's like, oh, they should get a shortstop, and Mateo's been fucking awesome. So there's enough wiggle room there for for ownership to be like, well, when you give our guys a chance, they're amazing. The reality is they're waiting for the Nationals TV conflict situation to get resolved so that they can put the team up for sale. Because as soon as the Nationals get their TV deal figured out, they'll get sold. And I'm pretty sure Angelos is going to follow right after that. And because of that, I don't think they're going to be aggressively spending money and moving shit around, even though they have such an unbelievable base to work with at the trade deadline. Maybe the best because you have so many young players and you know what they're worth and you know what they're doing at the big league level. So it makes it easier to go down to the minor leagues and be like, here's a shortstop for that pitcher.
I think you can split the difference though, Carl. Like you can go and get Giolito from the White Sox, say. And then he's there for 3 months and leaves the free agent. That's not spending too much money. Obviously, it's going to cost you some prospects to do that. But, I mean, I think you could do something like that. But Carl's point of waiting around for the Nationals TV contract, I feel like this has been going on for 15 years now. Like, I feel like this is never going to resolve itself. But I do think, though, like what Carl's saying, is the Orioles are definitely going to sell. I think that's almost guaranteed. The Suns don't seem to have any sort of idea, A, what they're doing, and B, to be super involved. And the whole Nationals thing with them selling, too. It is kind of a mess in that part of the baseball world, for sure.
Isn't it interesting? They moved the fences back, right? Seemingly because the Yankees just hit too many home runs. They were like, this is how we're going to get back. And the pitching for them is the problem, and it's not the hitting. Like, they moved the fences back, and they're hitting no problem.
Yeah.
Hitting bombs left and right, and it's the pitching. It's just such an interesting, that's what happened with, I don't know, weird.
The Orioles have never developed pitching that goes back for as long as I've been alive. The last great starting pitcher –
They were in the 60s and 70s.
Mike Mussina,
Chris Tillman.
Right. They spent a ton of early draft capital from 2005 to 2015 on starting pitchers, guys with weak makeup and good changeups. Whoever was running that scouting department. But that's one of those situations where, some guy named Bob's been running the draft for 20 years or something. They were late to the party. They're good now, and I think we all agree. It would be a division series. Game 3 at Baltimore, here come the Yankees. Here comes a bit, here come the Astros or something, and that they'll still have that underdog vibe in October, even if they win 100 games this year because of the young names and people are still figuring out. Oh, Austin Hayes is a dog. Mountcastle hits for fucking pop, and those guys haven't even gotten going this year. We're getting a little long in the tooth here. That's okay. I didn't bring the bell out yet. I was going to bell myself, but I like this conversation. I like this dialogue, and the other thing I'd say is. There's really only one team in our top 5 right now that I would say at the start of the year for sure would be in the top 5 here, and that'd be the Braves. I'd say, maybe if the Rays come out hot and they're knocking on it, the Blue Jays certainly have the talent. I'd say I'd like to see the Orioles in the top 9, and I'd say you're joking about the Pirates. So, again, I think it's been a great season for baseball. That's an observation as we get to number 6 here.
For sure, and it's been a great season for baseball, and it's been a great season for the number 6 team, a team that – with each passing day, I'm becoming more and more impressed by the Texas Rangers. I think that I'm still not on board with them being a threat to win the West. The Astros know how this works. They're going to get hot in the summer, but this is the makings very much so of a playoff team.
What about DeGrom?
Right, and the thing is, DeGrom will be out for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you shaking your head about?
because I cut off your rant and you go and you're a professional and you're so smooth. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Look, this is a great lineup, man. It really is. And Josh Young is a complete stud at third. And that was one thing I think I definitely overlooked is you can never really quantify how influential a really good rookie can be. I mean, look at what J-Rod, did for the Mariners last year. Like that can just light a fire under you. DeGrom will be out for a while, but thinking about it, and this is one of the reasons why I was fine with what the Mets did, letting him walk essentially. DeGrom at his best, at full health, maybe the most dominant pitcher I've ever seen. I mean, a few years ago when he was throwing 102 every inning, I mean, he was untouchable. But the Mets still last season won 101 games, and he won 5 of them. Like, I know that DeGrom at his best is as good as it gets, but the Mets survived it, and you could argue thrived. I know it didn't go great in the postseason, but in a 100-plus win season, I think the Rangers can survive this because I think they have enough offensive firepower, and I think they have a deep enough farm system where if they need to make a move at the deadline, they can make one. And we're talking about their staff. Nathan Eovaldi threw a complete game shut piece on Saturday, so like this is not it's not a rotation that is void of talent when DeGrom is out.
Yeah, I saw it firsthand this weekend. That offense is not something you want to go against, and they're missing Corey Seager right now, who's working his way back with the hamstring. I don't think he's too far away. That offense is fun, and they're pitching. I mean, Nathan Eovaldi, like you just said. I mean, I'm just so sick of that guy. I thought I was done really seeing him.
He just owns the Yankees, doesn't he, man?
We do. They're like we're in the moments where the Yankees have gotten his number, but for the most part, like
in big games, he's been really good.
I don't feel good about facing the guy ever. Martin Perez, very solid. Big John Gray has been good for them. Haney's been good. Thankfully, Cole outdueled him because I couldn't take a sweep and that happening. But, man, the Rangers, I had them a little lower just because I believe earlier in the week, did they not get swept by the Reds or some weird?
Yeah, they lost 3 games in order to the Reds, all come from behind, 2
so that's why I had them a little lower. They're still in my top 9. Had them a little lower. The Yankees are a shell of themselves right now and just, I think any team basically beats them this weekend with what they're throwing out there, the lineup, the pitching. But tip the cap of the Rangers. They were very good, and I do like that lineup a ton. They're putting up a shit ton of runs.
I have a question for you guys. This is coming out May 1st. June 1st. Does anyone here think the Astros will not be in first place?
I mean,
I think they will be, yeah.
It's a coin flip, man. They're 14-13 right now. They played hot. If they scored more than 2 runs in the first 2 games against Philadelphia, I'd have a different answer for you. And they played tonight in this matchup before we record. I think by July 1st, I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
I think by June 1st is a good metric. They hit the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
They do. I think they're going to miss DeGrom. I love the Rangers. I think it's fun to watch them. I've been watching them more the extra innings than I would have expected I would have before the season started. They're just a fun team to watch. But the Astros, in my opinion, is so much better.
They are. Long term, they will be. But I've been very impressed because I felt like they had the highest ceiling and the lowest floor maybe of any team in baseball. Where if these signings don't pan out, you are left with a whole lot of debt and very little production. So to see them start the way they have, it's like, okay, maybe this experiment is going to work for them.
DeGrom's injury, I think, that could really be bad for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to imply that it won't be like it's not a downgrade whoever they're going to go out and get, but I also think like given the way that things went last year with the Mets, like I could see them surviving this at least for a while.
And when Corey Seager comes back,
right?
And if he can stay healthy, it was talked about before the season. Then he played 10 games and hit, I think, 360 OPS around like 9-something, 1,000-something. They shifted on him 99% last year. They put everybody in the right field against him when you could shift. So you're not getting like the Corey Seager anybody even knows. You're getting a Corey Seager that could very realistically hit 340 with the 600 slug.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe he's that good. I'm with you, Carl. I think Corey Seager is an incredible player who's bizarrely like kind of underrated, despite
Very much
playing
so.
in the Dodgers and winning a World Series. Like, I think if you ask people who are the top players in baseball, I don't think a lot of people would put him in the top 10, but I think you could make a case he deserves to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
despite the accolades, there's not a whole lot of flashiness to him.
No.
I feel like so it's like I think he's often gotten overlooked, and I think also he actually suffered in a weird way from playing in LA where there's so many stars, and it's like he was putting up just as good numbers, but they were talking about Kershaw and they were talking about Mookie and some of the other guys in the lineup.
Yeah, he's an incredible postseason hitter, and he's like the one guy in the last a few years that I really wanted the Yankees to go out and get when he was a free agent.
Yeah.
Just felt like the perfect Yankee. Lefty. The defense, I think, is an issue, and will be, as it gets longer into that contract, can he stay short? But just a winner and a good player, a really good player to have if you think you're going to be a postseason team. When he comes back, that offense takes another step up, and they scored 15 today. So, how much better is this getting here? They impressed me big time this weekend.
If I get an opportunity to talk about this, I take advantage of it. When you go see a player in person and something really stands out that you remember, just as an example, how hard Devers swings a bat will always be in my head because I sat third row down a first base line or something when Devers was playing at Wrigley, and I saw him swing, and I was like, holy shit. Now every time, and it just stands out. It's like seeing a yellow Volkswagen, and you see the yellow Volkswagen all the time. Corey Seager's legs. He has the lower half of like a guy who got punished, and his punishment was he just had to skate on ice for 20 years and do a lot of steroids. His legs, he's like a centaur. It's more than a centaur. So it's weird that he's always hurt because he has this lower half that you would say that's a durable body, that's a big guy, but I'm glad we could talk a little bit about Corey Seager getting national. He does deserve. He is underrated, Klemmer. You said that he's underrated.
Yeah.
Man, the Texas Rangers at 6. This is a month from now. If this is still what the list looks like, or this is the type of mix we're playing off of, again, I'm just gonna say it's a great year for baseball. I love this type of shit. Who do we have at 7? Who's up?
I think it's me. And I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers, 18-10 Milwaukee Brewers. They have been consistently good all year. I know it's only been a month. I also think they have the talent to win that division. And the real story in the Central is really the Cardinals and how bad they've been. They've been atrocious. And the Brewers have taken complete advantage. And I think, we talk about the Pirates, how I don't have a lot of hope for them to be still in the chase in September. I do think the Brewers have that ability to be potentially dominant in the Central until the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fair pick.
Yeah.
Corbin Burns is still getting adjusted to the tempo. He was one of the slower tempo guys last year. He's had a little bit of an issue, but again, that should come. That's a guy who had to make an adjustment to get to the level he's at. So that another adjustment will come. Milwaukee's a tough place to play too, and their travel schedule is light. They got young guys who are starting to get opportunities. Homegrown guys. I like Garrett Mitchell a lot. They get good players.
Mitchell's hurt, so that's not great for them. And their offense, outside Tellez, you could say they don't have a true slugger, so I guess that's my concern with them. But to Carl's point, though, if Burns can figure it out, they're 18-10 with him not being that great. Yeah. What if he is able to become Corbin Burns we saw the last couple of years? That becomes a dangerous team.
Yelich has an OPS of 656. They seem to me just the perfect good regular season. Maybe they probably win the division. No chance to win the World Series.
They need to seriously upgrade their offense. I mean, they just play Detroit, and it's just man, this pitching is great. I mean, there's very few relievers better than Devin Williams in baseball right now. I don't know if there is one that's better, but at the same time, I'm so continually unimpressed by their offense. But maybe they have this not the current Rays, but this early 2010s Rays thing where you look at their lineup and you're like, man, none of these guys scare me, but top to bottom, there's not a lot of easy outs, like a 2015 Royals type of vibe to them.
Yeah,
let's improve them right now. Who would you trade for, or where would you improve? Just generally with them knowing, okay, William Contreras behind the plate, Rowdy Tellez, weak at second. Would you go to the outfield?
I get more power in the outfield.
Okay.
I just need more power. Whether or not they can even play the field like effectively isn't even a problem with me at this point. They just need to add 1 or 2 bats, and I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off.
It's tough
with them. Sorry, go.
I was gonna say, I'm a Mets fan, so we're constantly looking for that guy who can be that DH, right? Because we have Vogelback who can only play against righties, and he's only a DH, so he kind of bogs up your roster. It's really hard to find that really big hitter. There just isn't a lot of big hitters available. Like looking through some of the bad teams, other than the White Sox, who has a slugger you'd really want that team would trade? Like the A's, the Royals, do they have guys, the Rockies, that they would maybe CJ Cron, but they already have Tellez? So I don't really know where the fit would be from a team that would, in theory, trade these guys away. It's tough. And I said Mets ran into this last year, and probably run into it again this year.
Yeah.
The other knock I'd say, aside from their lineup, I'm not very impressed with the starting rotation as a whole. Like the way I look at that is matchups in the playoffs, right? Obviously, Burns is your one. After that, I'm going to feel pretty good probably about the other team in that pitching matchup, like whoever it is.
Brandon Woodruff is very good.
Yeah,
when
he's on the IL right now. I think
he
15.
I don't know. That rotation to me, it's just the same kind. I don't feel this Brewers team, despite their record, is any different from anything I've seen in the past of a Brewers team that's made the playoffs.
Very true.
All right, yeah. I'll spot you when Wade Miley takes the mound or Lauer takes the mound in a game 3 or 4. You're like, come on, dude, what are we doing?
Woodruff, for sure.
Okay.
Why?
Freddie Peralta is a really good pitcher. No one talks about him. He's super underrated. I know
You're right.
He's not going to win a Cy Young. I'm not saying that.
He's
but
pretty damn good.
Peralta is a very worthwhile number 3 starter in a playoff series.
He's had one season in his career over 100 innings.
Sure, you're absolutely right. But we can't necessarily put guys in that. It's not carbon. It's not like Han Solo where he's stuck in carbonite. Just because something is doesn't mean it will be forever. And I think Peralta's only 27. Like he could easily put together a durable season. We have to see it. But right now, the track record, he's been very good this year. I'm not going to say he's injured before he's hurt.
Yes,
he's tough to hit. He's tough to hit. He's healthy right now. He's fucking healthy right now. Let's not speak that into existence. I like the name Freddie too at the top.
To inning ratio. So like that tells me that he's in it. Like assuming he can stay healthy, he's going to be a very good pitcher going forward. He's 27, like I said. He constantly has strikeout to 9 innings pitched. Like 11, 12? Like what? It's very high.
His numbers are good. I'm not saying his numbers aren't good, but I just don't think he's durable enough to make it through a full year. And honestly, like the hitting is the bigger issue here for sure. Yeah. I'm nitpicking with the starting rotation. I just feel like if I'm a playoff team and then actually matched up against them, I'm going to feel fairly good.
I get that
about my situation.
It's very similar to a team we might talk about here in a second with the Twins. I think that's one of the reasons why you guys continually club them in the playoffs is that they've always been able to construct pretty good lineups outside of Santana for a short period. You didn't look at that rotation any year and be like, oh man, I worry that guy might just shut us down.
Yeah, and I'll lead right into that. That would be my team I'm picking because I believe I'm up next, right?
Yep.
I had him a little higher. I think it's some of the best starting pitching in baseball.
This year it's been excellent. Yes.
You could make an argument that's the best starting rotation in baseball at the way they've shown off here. Mm-hmm. It is very, very impressive. And, I got a little taste of it so far. But, Lopez, Sonny Gray, is like, you see Garrett Cole pitch, and you're like, oh, that's the Cy Young leader. Sonny Gray is right there.
Yeah.
He has been – everything I imagined he'd be as a Yankee is just what he's doing right now as a Twin. It's very frustrating. Joe Ryan has been excellent. And that offense hits the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
They've handled the business so far. What are they, 18-12, 17-12? What do I have them here? 17-12? They're firmly the 8th, and they could make an argument of probably 7 or 6, but they can't drop any lower than this for me.
Now, you say you have the best rotation in baseball. You mean like up to this point, or you think like moving forward?
No, up to this point. Like in this first month, they have, I think, been the best staff.
I was gonna go put my Mets hat on and go crazy on you, but that's
in the first month, they've been the best staff, I think, in baseball.
I'm not gonna argue that.
Carl's angry.
No, I think it's a great pick. I think it's a great pick. Who's getting arrested over? They've got a hostage situation. Someone's fucking.
We're in New York City.
Attaboy. No, I know. That's good living. That's good living. You got those. Someone's out hard at work. We're in a difficult situation. I do like the Twins a lot. They'll just never get the coverage. They'll have to win a World Series and then have some sexy players and become this cool, sexy team and all that stuff.
Honestly,
and who knows if they'll ever do that.
Series. I think if they just have to knock the Yankees out of the playoffs.
Win a playoff series.
Win a playoff game.
Yeah, and it like we're saying that in jest. Like they'd win a playoff game and we'd throw a party and make fun of how they've never won a playoff game. Like if they won a series, then the joke would be like, "You've got one good luck. That's one time took all that." Like they would legitimately have to win a World Series, and they'd have to do it with like sex and flair and players that attract national appeal. Like nobody gives a fuck about the Seattle Mariners. Oh, did you guys meet Julio Rodriguez? Oh wow, now we're talking. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, I think at his peak, Correa can be that guy. He's struggled.
And Buxton.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just so inclined with Buxton to believe that's the other she was going to drop at some point.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But he does have that flair. Like, if
For sure.
he puts it all together in the playoffs, that's the name. Is like, oh, that's fun.
And I also think all of us are going to be inclined to put them probably lower throughout the season because, I mean, the AL Central up to a few days ago was playing at a 63 win pace. Like, yes, they've done their job, but it's going to be hard to buy in. And so much of that isn't their fault. It's past history. I get it. But this is very much I'll believe it when I see it team in a division that says the same thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Still don't think you can put them any lower than what I have them here.
Well,
No.
they belong on this list for sure. They played good baseball this year. It's just long term. I'm always going to kind of have that objection.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a bad list without the Twins on it.
Yeah.
It's a bad list without the Twins on it.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to take a fucking crack at 9 here?
I do.
My Mets.
You want to do the thing where we just yell at the same time?
Obs, what are you going to say?
I'm going D-backs.
That's who I was going to go with too.
I mean, you guys see who's pitching against the Tigers this week? You guys aware of that? Just want to let you guys we got
You didn't make a list about next week.
Max Scherzer and Kodai Senga facing the Tigers next week. The Mets are ready to go. Look at the next 2 weeks of the Mets. It's cream puff after cream puff to cream puff. 2 weeks from now, the Mets are going to have a winning percentage on pace over 100 wins. I think this team is ready to go on a run.
That's not what this is. Not the point of the show. Is not to project runs.
But you have to because we haven't
Schedule's easy. Listen to you. Fuck off. Schedule's easy.
We haven't had Justin Verlander all season, so we're getting him back. Like this team's about to get very good. No, it's not like they're bad. They have a top 10 winning percentage, don't they? In the league, they're on pace to win 90 games.
You scored one run or fewer in 3 or less 4 games.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of a rough week. Yeah,
It has not been a good week. They've gone 1-3 since we last did the panel show.
But your offense just as a whole is sure, you're getting Scherzer and Verlander.
That's a pretty big deal.
It is. You can't hit. And you add enough, just like the Yankees, you added 0 offense in the offseason.
I'm not arguing it. I've been saying all along they have to have that bat. They thought they had it with Correa. Ends up his ankle is apparently shredded cheese. Who knows? But they do want that bat. They tried to get it. Didn't work out. They need to get that bat. I don't know where you get it from unless you get someone from the White Sox and hope it works out. I don't know. The offense.
How about you develop it with one of the top 2? You guys have the top catching prospect and one of the top third base prospects. Here's an idea. Why don't the Mets develop players?
They do
Like Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil,
Alonso.
You have these great homegrown players, and now it's like you need another guy right now. They have a couple young studs, right?
We do. We also have Vientos and Mauricio in AAA. Obviously, you have Beatty, who's started to hit this week. That's the one positive from this week. He looks really good. Alvarez looks overmatched right now, but that's going to take some time. But I think for a team that has World Series aspirations like the Mets do, I think you need to go and get that veteran heavy-duty bat, Carl. I think that's the difference. It's not
100%.
like I agree. Ideally, they do develop these guys. But honestly, though, I'll say this to Mets fans. Outside of those 4 guys, the 4 we mentioned, it gets thin in the minor leagues. We don't have a lot. We don't have any pitching prospects that are very high up. Unfortunately, the last regime did such a bad job at the minor leagues. We need some time to fill it back up. And you do that by going and making some moves for some veterans while you spend some time helping your minor leagues out.
So when Verlander comes back and then when Scherzer's off his suspension and those two guys are working together and they're cruising, like it will impact the attitude of that team inside and out on the road trip, showing up. But like when you see Justin Verlander get together before the game and like do his business and go out and he does his 7, he strikes out his 10, gives up his 3 hits, and he's going through his professional routine. He's a grinder and stuff. Like, that's a shit Beatty needs to be around and Alvarez needs to see. And, like, not to say Nimmo's not that guy, McNeil's not, although, like, they have a good core and Showalter's a tremendous leader, but there's just nothing like you're going to have like, legitimately one of the best to ever do it of his generation in the clubhouse working alongside, you know, a guy who is also one of the best to ever do it for his generation. And that's an impact that goes far past quality starts and, you know, pitching matchups and shit. Like, that really puts the juice in that fucking clubhouse.
I'm sure he's going to be really good when he returns this week, Verlander. But watching the highlights of his minor league rehab start gave me like Roger Clemens pitching in like a beer league softball, a beer league. Like it didn't look like he was throwing very hard, and he maybe put on like a few pounds, and obviously it's a minor league setting, and it just gave me like, oh, Verlander could be over the hill here, but he's really good. He was
dominant. He made those guys look like beer league players.
He did. But I'm just saying, if you just
the imagery that was
like looked like he was like he couldn't throw the ball hard anymore. But he's facing minor leaguers. It's not a playoff atmosphere, obviously. But it's just like he was wearing all white. He looked a little fat. Like I don't know. It just came off to like some weird, like it's just over the hill vibes. I'm not saying he is. I'm sure he's gonna be lights out. I know Justin Verlander has haunted my dreams for the last fucking 5 years, or whatever. But I'm just saying, would be a shame if he's over the hill.
Yeah, you guys were talking about the Diamondbacks earlier. The Mets have a slightly better winning percentage than the Diamondbacks without
556 to 552.
What are you saying? It's true.
556 to 552. Dude, that's 1,000 games to get a 4-win difference. 1,000. You'd have to play 2 seasons to feel a fucking win on these two teams.
But here's the difference: is we're getting Justin Verlander. I don't see the Diamondbacks getting Justin Verlander next week. And
but you didn't this week, and you're not in first place. And the last game you played, the Braves were shitting on you. So that's why, like, that's all the reasons why. Just in the long term, of course, the Mets are better.
Even right now, they're better.
Zach Gallen is better than anybody on your fucking team, dude.
Okay, great. How about that? Keep going through that pitching rotation. See how it works out for you.
Tommy Henry, Michigan great.
So. Yeah, shout out Tommy Henry. shout out Mike Fetters. What about Merrill Kelly?
He's been good. 3 ERA.
He's fine.
Now, if someone was pitching to a 3 ERA in Citi Field, you'd be telling me how
we have Max Scherzer as well as Justin Verlander. You got the Diamondbacks have Zach Gallen. Okay, you guys really think the Diamondbacks have a better record at the end of the season than the Mets?
That's not the point of this discussion.
Senga might be bad.
I disagree with that, but okay.
All of his non-ghost fork pitches get teed off on. You might
I'd say his ghost fork pitches seem to do okay.
No question. That pitch is elite. All the other pitches, which he has to mix in, are bad.
All right, so we have to make a decision between the Diamondbacks and the Mets. Now the Mets may be the Mets may be a better team. The Mets may be a better team. Now this is the problem where I've talked a lot of shit to Klemmer on this episode, and so now people think I'm just saying this to fuck with Klemmer. I'm not. But I didn't think you gave very good reasons for right now why the Mets deserve to be 9th.
They have a better record by a fraction. They have a better roster. And they're getting a better player this week. Not only that.
Well, if we did rosters, roster was the second thing you just listed, which is one of the most. I could not think of a more meaningless thing when we're talking about power rankings week 5.
The roster,
about the roster for next week?
No, the roster. The roster currently.
A guy coming off an IL, a guy cheating.
All right, if you guys can roll the Diamondbacks, that's just fine.
Corbin Carroll's been.
I'm gonna shit all over you guys the next 2 weeks. I'm just gonna sit here. You guys have your D-backs. Go for it. See me in 2 weeks. It's gonna be brutal.
Well, I mean,
I have your blood on my hands.
The Tank is like a fellow fan of yours, and he just nothing good happens to him, and you just assume good things are going to happen now.
I don't assume it. I have reasons.
Your reasons stink.
Oh yeah, the Cy Youngs that guy has, they stink.
You don't have them right now.
They're gonna be there on Wednesday.
Corbin Carroll is better than anyone on your team.
Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, I mean, we
Corbin
cannot.
Carroll steals already this year.
I agree. The Mets next week, if these guys come back, they're healthy and they perform as expected, that I would be stupid to say the Diamondbacks would have an event. But right now, I haven't seen it. What I have seen is Derek Shelton lead the Pirates. I've seen Bruce Bochy lead the Rangers. The Blue Jays are excellent at positions. Excellent. I've seen a lot of great stuff here. What I haven't seen is a reason to say right now that the Mets deserve to be ranked higher than what the Diamondbacks have done so far through week 5.
Okay. That's fine. You guys are wrong. I'm right. That's fine. It's fine. The truth will bear out. It's fine. Good.
This is the point of the panel. Objective, fair analysis. We had another segment plan. We've gone long. I'll ask you guys what you want to do here.